But my sense is that it is easier to divorce your spouse than get fired at the Federal Reserve. Do they get a bonus when they say inflation is transitory and it's not? Do they still get their bonus?
I don't have the answer to that.
And yeah, some of my regulators were not as proactive as they should have been, but it's Trump's fault. Trump ain't my homework. And I don't think that's a candid assessment of the situation. The other thing that I find curious, and I'm going to ask Mr. Barr about this.
Senator, I'd be happy to come up and talk to you further about that, have my team come up and discuss it with you and your staff and see if there's a way.
But I want to talk about it in front of the American people.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can start by having a conversation in your office if you'd like. It's up to you.
On May 17th, 2023, the Senate Banking Committee's Subcommittee on Economic Policy sat down to answer a question that 3 collapsed banks had forced into the open. When the Federal Reserve fails at its job, who actually holds it accountable? The witness was Mark Bialek, the Fed's Inspector General since 2011, the man whose entire office exists to investigate the Federal Reserve from the inside. What follows is not a hearing about Silicon Valley Bank. It is a hearing about whether the Fed's internal watchdog can bite. And over the next 10 minutes, Senator John Kennedy asks a series of questions that sound almost simple. How many investigations? How many firings? Who signs your paycheck? And receives over and over a version of the same answer.
Did some particular employee at the Fed not do their job? Is that correct?
Yes.
About how many of those you think you've done?
Well, in terms of investigations of potential misconduct or wrongdoing, we have typically had a running average of about 60 or 70 of those. Obviously, the pandemic...
Is that total? 60 or 70 a year?
No, at any point in time.
Okay.
Many of them are closed. New ones come in through our hotline, which we open up. But that's typically a rough gauge for how many investigations we have pending.
Since you've been there in 2011, again, I'm talking internal investigations, would 500 sound right?
I'd have to look into it. I don't want to give you a number.
No, I'm not going to hold you to it. Wasn't many, is it more? You think it's more than 500?
I would like to look into it and get you an exact number.
Okay. In what percentage of the cases, just ballpark, do you find wrongdoing?
Again, it would be a wild guess, and I'm not comfortable giving one to you, but we can certainly look into that and develop those numbers for you.
Frankly, I would have thought you'd would have that before you came today. Do you think it's more than half?
No, I would not think so.
More than a quarter?
That's where I'm uncomfortable.
Well, is it happen frequently that you find wrongdoing or infrequently?
It's not infrequent.
It's not infrequent? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And when you find wrongdoing, are the people who committed the wrongdoing, according to your report, fired?
Sometimes.
Okay. What percentage are fired?
Again, sir, I would like to get you a specific number if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, I think if you could get us that number, and perhaps we could do this again. Because I think people have the right to know that. I don't want to pick on the Federal Reserve. I just want to treat them like everybody else. And my sense is, and I think your numbers can prove or disprove this, but my sense is that it is easier to divorce your spouse than get fired at the Federal Reserve. And if that's the case, we're entitled to know that. It's a lot of money over there.
Watch what Kennedy is actually doing there, because it is not a gotcha. He asks for a total, then a percentage, then a fraction, a half, a quarter, narrowing the target each time to give the witness something, anything, he can answer without a document in front of him. And the Inspector General holds the line every time, offering instead to follow up in writing. That is a defensible answer. It is also, on its own, an incomplete one, because the single figure Bialek does volunteer is not a number at all. Wrongdoing at the Federal Reserve, he says, is not infrequent. And when the people who committed it are caught, they are fired. Sometimes. The frequency is unknown. The consequence is optional. Kennedy's next line of questioning asks who is paying the man who decides both.
And that's not a criticism of anybody. And tell me again about your salary. It's the average of what?
It's the average of both the salary and the bonus that is attributed to the other individuals who are similarly situated in terms of the organizational structure, which for me is the division director level. So there are 12 other individuals, and it's the average of their salary plus bonus.
Okay. So there are about 13 of you, and your salary is set on the average of the 13.
That is the case for all DFEIGs. That's in the IG Act as the formula to be used.
I'm just asking. Are the others set that way too?
The other
The 12 other ones whose salaries are used to get your salary?
I'm not aware of how those are
Okay.
are established.
Okay. And do you get a bonus?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do the others get a bonus?
Yes, that's part of that average that I mentioned.
Okay. Do all 12 of the others get a bonus?
I don't know the answer to that.
Do they get a bonus when they say inflation is transitory and it's not? Do they still get their bonus?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay. How do we get that information?
Requested from the Federal Reserve folks.
How about we call the IG? Can you get it for us?
IG should not be in the position of getting information to turn over if we're not otherwise engaged in an audit or evaluation. Okay.
Strip away the joke and look at the structure the witness has just described under oath. The Inspector General's salary is an average of the pay of roughly a dozen senior officials of the institution he investigates, and their pay includes bonuses. He receives no bonus himself, but when their bonuses rise, his baseline rises with them. Bialek does not dispute the arrangement. He explains it and notes it is the formula written into the Inspector General Act. Nothing in this exchange establishes that he has ever softened a finding. What it establishes is narrower and harder to argue with. The watchdog's compensation moves with the fortunes of the institution he is watching. Senator Warren's office would later point to precisely this exchange in arguing the position should be a presidentially appointed, Senate-confirmed job. Kennedy takes it somewhere else entirely.
I know you're in the if I could have 30 more seconds. I know you're in the process of looking at the bank failures, and I don't want you to. I'm not trying to put you on the spot because you don't know yet. But you know, I find two things ironic. Maybe irony is the wrong word to use, but as a result of these strike that. It seems that ever since the Great Recession, we've been very concerned, as we should be, about banks that are too big to fail. Big is dangerous. I'm not against big. I'm against dumb. So, but if you have an institution that is really, really big and it does something dumb, it hurts a lot of people. Nobody ever goes to jail, but that's a separate story. But it looks to me like, as a result of these recent failures, that our big banks are getting bigger. Mm-hmm. And I find that ironic. Again, maybe the wrong word. I don't know if you're going to look at that in your studies.
Well, Senator, that strikes me as being a straight-ahead policy issue. Mm-hmm. The Federal Reserve Board decides what rules of engagement for the supervision of banks at different sizes, tailoring. All of those are supervisory, policy-based decisions, and the IGs are prohibited from getting involved in overseeing policy.
Senator Warren and I may disagree with this, but we disagree a lot, but we still like each other. But see, if I ask Mr. Barr that question, I think the answer I'm going to get is, look, the problem with the bank failures is the management did dumb things, and they were incompetent. And yeah, some of my regulators were not as proactive as they should have been, but it's Trump's fault. Trump ain't my homework. And I don't think that's a candid assessment of the situation.
That refusal deserves to be taken seriously because it is legally correct. Inspectors General audit whether an agency followed its own rules. They do not get to decide what the rules should be. When Bialek says bank size tailoring is a board policy question, he is describing a real limit on his own power. And in doing so, he answers Kennedy's complaint by pointing at the ceiling above his head, which leaves the senator's actual question unowned by anybody in the room. If the Inspector General cannot examine why the failures made the largest banks larger, and the Fed official who wrote the supervisory rules will point at the bank's management, then the question Kennedy came to ask has no assigned addressee. He spends the last 3 minutes of his time trying to create one.
The other thing that I find curious, and I'm going to ask Mr. Barr about this. Traditionally, when banks get in trouble, you don't go out and shout it. We're in trouble. They call their regulators, say, we got a problem here. Or the regulators spot it and they go in. And to prevent a bank run or panic, they handle it quietly. And the regulators will call around with other banks that are healthier and say, can we affect a marriage here? And that doesn't seem to be what's happening. And as a result, the healthy banks that would normally come in and help for a price, a fair price, and help the failed bank, the healthy banks, they're pretty smart. They're waiting. They're going, no, we don't want to come in too early. Let's let them go under. And then we'll come in and we'll get a great deal, and the taxpayers will have to guarantee all our potential losses. Can you look into that? Because if I ask Mr. Barr, God bless him, he's just going to say, it's the fault of the bank presidents and Trump ate my homework. So I'm looking for somebody who can help us answer those.
To the extent that you're asking, Senator, about the process of once a bank fails, what does the Fed, what does the FDIC do in terms of trying to get another bank to come in and take over or buy its operations? That would be kind of post-failure, so that wouldn't be part of our current review, material loss reviews, but we can consider looking into the kind of post-failure issues like that, or discussions that may have been had with the other financial regulators.
I'm taking too long, but here's what I'm getting to. And this is not a criticism of J.P. Morgan or Mr. Diamond. I have great respect for both of them. But the deal they made is a good deal. I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't have made a good deal for their shareholders. But the truth is, the deal was so good, if we still had white pages, you could open up the white pages, put your hand over your eyes, and pick a name and say, we're giving you this deal. And it would be successful. Because the taxpayers had to guarantee 80% of the losses. And somebody needs to look at that.
Senator, I'd be happy to come up and talk to you further about that, have my team come up and discuss it with you and your staff and see if there's a way.
But I want to talk about it in front of the American people.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can start by having a conversation in your office if you'd like. It's up to you.
Thank you, sir.
So what did this hearing actually establish? Start with what is documented. When JP Morgan Chase acquired First Republic on May 1st, 2023, the FDIC entered 2 shared loss agreements covering 80% of credit losses on the acquired commercial and single-family loan portfolios. 5 years on one, 7 on the other. Kennedy's 80% figure is accurate. His word taxpayers is contested. That guarantee sits with the FDIC's Deposit Insurance Fund, which is financed by assessments on banks, not by general tax revenue. Though the FDIC estimated the failure would cost that fund roughly $13 billion. Now separate out what remains an allegation. That healthy banks are deliberately waiting for weaker ones to collapse in order to buy them cheaper is Kennedy's theory. No evidence for it was presented in this hearing, and the Inspector General neither confirmed nor rejected it. He said it falls outside the reviews he is required to conduct, and that is the finding underneath all of it. Across 10 minutes, the man whose job is oversight said, in sequence, "I don't have that number. I don't know the answer. That's a policy question. That's outside my review." Every one of those answers was defensible. Together, they describe an accountability structure in which almost nothing lands anywhere.